Welcome to another Learn to Crochet video with myself, Faye of Unravel and Unwind. In this video we will be having a go at the Rumanian stitch. For my stitch sample I will be chaining 16 and I will place a double crochet in the second chain from hook and then a double crochet in each of the stitches across. As you can see, I am using the back bumps of the chain. The reason I do this is so that it looks neater and tidier, and both sides of the foundation row will look the same. Now you'll see that I have fastened off at the end of the first row. Now one of the features of the Romanian stitch is that it is worked with the right side of the fabric looking at you at all times. So I haven't turned my work, so I've kept it at the front. And then you rejoin your yarn in your first stitch of the row, and I'm just doing it by slipping it through. And you make your chain one like you would normally as a turning chain. Those are the front loops. We're not going to be using those. We are going to be working into the back loops like we did on the ridge stitch. So we insert our hook into the back loop of the first stitch and make our double crochet. And then we're going to double crochet in each of the stitches across, similar to the ridge stitch, but that's where the similarities will stop. Unlike the ridge stitch, we will be fastening off at the end of each row because we're keeping the work with the right side facing at all times. Now this is a stitch sample that I'm not used to seeing. The first time I came across it was in a book by Montrico of 500 crochet stitches, and the fact that you have to fasten off after every row so that you're not turning your work, I would imagine that that's why we don't see this stitch very often at all, because it's far too many ends to sew in. Okay, so that's our first two rows. Again, we're going to rejoin our yarn in the first stitch, keeping the work facing, right side facing at all times. It's a little fiddly with all these extra threads hanging around. Do your chain one for your height and another row of back loop double crochets. To save sewing some of the ends in, you'll see that I'm actually crocheting over the tail and trapping it inside my stitches. Like most crocheters, I don't like sewing, so I try to avoid it at all counts. So we're continuing on with back loop. Get to the last stitch of the row, be sure that it is the last stitch and not where you fastened off on the previous row. Okay, you can already see that it is looking very different from the ridge stitch, and this is because we're working on the right side for every single row. If you have used this stitch before, let us know in the comments below. I'd be interested to see what projects have been made using the Rumanian stitch. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to try and crochet in that tail to reduce the amount of sewing in. So if you're feeling competent enough, you can crochet over the other tails just to keep it a little bit neater and tidier. It keeps those tails out of the way while you're working as well. So things to remember about the Rumanian stitch. It's worked in the back loop using a double crochet on each stitch across each row, and you're fastening off at the end of each row because you're working on the front of the fabric, the right side of the fabric at all times. I think it has a look of Tunisian crochet about it. It is easy to identify and count each of the rows. This is the back side of the work. Like I said before, the downsides are that you are having to fasten off and you're going to have a tail at each end to sew in or work in. And this is how it compares to the ridge stitch. So it's using the same stitch as the ridge stitch, but with the ridge stitch we turn each row, so it is a flatter piece of fabric. Thank you for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, please give it a like by clicking the thumbs up button below, and why not consider subscribing to our YouTube channel. If you would like early release on crochet videos and other craft related videos, please pop over to our Patreon page. The link will be in the description below. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.